have to come up with a new speech topic. And this year, I came up with by the numbers because we got a lot of good numbers. I'm going to tell you all this. Who's having one of the best years in their life right now? Yeah. We have one of the most phenomenal economies that's not boom, that's sustainable that we're seeing right now. Who kind of agrees with this? Showing up in housing sales, which aren't even rippling with rising interest rates. So I always look for, unique things. It's the most ironic thing I saw last year, a truckload of chickens at a Chick-fil-A. Who agrees with the irony on that? Now, I personally have not eaten chicken since 1982. There's a reason they call it fowl. We'll just leave it at that, and we'll go on from there. I love this one. Every year, I grew up in a sheep ranch in southwestern Colorado in the mountains, and I hate snow. We used to feed, literally 7 tons of snow up to 30 below zero in the wintertime. But every year in January, I end up in Alaska for a week. And I speak for some of our agents in the Alaskan Land Title Association, and some of the largest franchise there is RE/MAX, their conventions. And so one year when I got off the airplane, this year, by the way, that's 1:30 in the afternoon. The sun's getting ready to go down at 1:30 in the afternoon. And you can already see the long shadows. But one year when I got off the airplane in Fairbanks to go speak for Yukon Title, one of our agents, the owner, Roger, he said, boy, when you walk out, don't you walk outside until you see exactly where my marketing manager's picking you up. It was minus 58 degrees. So I'm at this glass wall looking out, and I ring her phone, and she says, I see you, I'm in the Brown Denali, I saw her. She says, 3 things before you step outside. Do not breathe deep because you will burn your lungs. She said, if you slip and fall on the sidewalk out here in the snow and the ice, you're gonna die. She says, because I'm not getting out of this heated seat and this heated vehicle to come save you. And then she said, and you're stupid to be without gloves up here. She says, don't touch the door handle because your hand will stick to it. I'll open it from the inside and you get in. So I get inside, meet 27-year-old millennial, sharply young lady. And it's pitch black, it's 10:30 in the morning. And I said, what time does the sun come up and where? She says, it comes up there about 11:30, it peaks there at noon, it goes down there at 12:30. Oh my God, I said, what do you do all winter long? In the dark and the cold? And she said, sad. I said, I get it, sad, but what do you do all winter long? She said, sad, Doc. I said, I get that you're sad, but I mean, what can you do that many hours of dark? She said, Doc, pay attention here. SAD, S-A-D, sex, alcohol, and drugs. And I turned as red as this tie, and she says, boy, you are gullible. So, yeah, what can I say? And then, by the numbers, do not exceed 8,000 pounds. There's a reason we have numbers, folks. So I'm going to tell y'all, in November I made the call that 2018 was going to be phenomenal, and it's because of these bad words on the screen. Hurricanes and disasters. And you look at what happened in the last 16 months. We had massive fires and flooding in Wyoming and Montana and Idaho and the state of Washington and Nevada, Utah, and Oregon. And we had massive fires in California and some flooding. And then we had hurricanes both in Texas and Florida. And the reason I know it's going to be a really good year this year, because after you have an event like that, and you lose thousands of jobs, I'm going to show you that today, but then you boom. And the reason you boom is billions of dollars of new money comes in, both in federal aid, both in insurance payments, and well, look, we had that little rainstorm in Houston. Y'all saw all the pictures, am I right? Yeah, then we buy everything from cars, TVs, and on. So here's what, here we go. Hurricane in Houston. Actually, I lied to you. It's not a hurricane in Houston. That's the best Jeep ad I've ever seen in all my life. So what happens? Oh, one of my friends at my house in Houston, Texas, where I live, we got 38 inches of rain in 52 hours. We didn't have any water in the house. Is that amazing? But one of my friends got 7 feet of water, so he said, I've got a picture for you to use in your speeches this year. And I got the picture. I said, hey, but there's no water. He said, tell the story. And he says, we started getting water in the house at midnight. By 3 a.m., it was 7 feet deep. Thankfully, the cell phone system was still working. I was on my cell phone. We called for a rescue. They came in a twin-engine boat. That's the top of his wife's SUV where it dropped that propeller. Now you know how deep the water was. Twin-engine boat over the top of the SUV, and they couldn't even see it was there. Of course, it was dark at night. I got to get on national TV and one of the national news networks. They said, would you come on? We want to do live coverage on every time zone at 5 p.m. I said, sure. So the reporter sends, oh, by the way, any reporters in here? They're not very reputable people, some of them. I just want to tell you this right now. Just to tell you that real quick. But the reporter at 10 o'clock that morning, she sends me, here's the list of questions you're going to ask, and I ask them in that order so you can prepare. So I'm down there and I got my suit on, and she pops up this thing, first thing out. She's, we have Dr. Ted Jones here, Stuart Title. First thing out, she pops up this picture and she says, Dr. Jones, tell us the value impact on this property from Hurricane Harvey. That was not one of the questions. So I thought to myself, you want to play this game, I can play this game. So I said to her, that property is not about as valuable this week as it was last week. She says, gotcha. Never ask that question again in any other interviews. Just to show you one, this is our CFO's house. I'll bet y'all have never seen a floating kayak in a living room, have you? And by the way, you didn't need the kayak in the living room. It was at 8 to 10 feet of water out in the street that you had to have the kayak for. So here's what happens. Immediately, first 6 months, not thereabouts, you immediately get a plunge in jobs. You immediately get a decline in housing sales. In Houston, for example, after Harvey, our housing sales went down 24% year over year. You immediately, the whole economy just implodes. But then in the next 6 to 12 months, you get massively strong housing sales. Part of it is, and you all probably know some of these people, part of it is that some of the people who were not impacted by the hurricane say, I'm selling this house, I'm never going through this again. You've met some of those people that listed their house with you after the hurricane, am I correct? Yep. And so that's a listing and a sale you otherwise never would have had. And then there's people that they lost their house or it's damaged and may not get rebuilt for 2-3 years, but their business is there, their family's there, so they got to just buy another house. And when the other house, so that's a sale that otherwise never would have taken place. And then when that other house is repaired, one of those two houses is going to sell again. So you have all this impact. So what I figured, this is Katrina. Look at the massive loss in jobs. Now Katrina, you've got to realize, was not like an ordinary hurricane, because most of the damage for Katrina didn't happen until 7 days after the hurricane was gone, because their levee system failed and their pumping system failed. And part of New Orleans were up to 32 feet below sea level, and without that it just filled up with water. That was it, bottom line. So I figured I'd bring it back down here to y'all. Head over to Southwest Florida. Hurricane Charlie hits, here's Punta Gorda. You get an immediately decline in jobs. Now, you think, well, that's not many jobs. Yeah, it's almost 2,000 jobs. When you have less than 40,000, that's a lot of jobs. And you get this immediate plunge, and then you start getting it, and then when all the money comes in, it booms. We're seeing this all over Florida, all over Texas right now. All the Pacific Northwest of the states I just told you about. And so you get massive, probably some of the most strong job growth you'll ever see in your entire life in communities. And then I'll just talk about housing sales. And to do that, I'm going to just take you to Cape Coral, Fort Myers. Hurricane Charlie comes in. In the 12 months after Hurricane Charlie, housing sales were up 11.1% year over year. In the US, they're only up 6.3%. So y'all get how short term it really hurts, long term it's wow, it's just good stuff. So I'm going to show you US jobs, and we're going to all by the numbers. If 10 years ago you would ask me what is really good job growth rate, I'd say 2.5% up. And I'm going to tell you in the next 10 slides why 1.61% job growth in the US is phenomenal. All right? And I'm not going to use any fake news to do it or anything else like that. So we have 2.36 million net new jobs in the US. All right, so now let's talk about how many of y'all have heard a reporter say in the last month Trump's putting us into a recession? Who's heard that? Yeah, hear it all the time. It's not true. A recession is defined as two quarters of negative GDP. Our last 4 quarters have been as good as the economy's been in 10 years. And so I have a blood pressure test that tells me when we're going to be heading into a recession. And what I do is I look at leisure and hospitality jobs. You and I don't spend money on leisure and hospitality unless we feel really good about the future, right? Well, it's the ultimate consumer confidence test is employment in this sector. And the second that this goes negative, like right here, I'm going to call us into recession before the US does, because it says everyone's backing up, they're putting on the brakes. Now you can see what hurricanes Harvey and Irma did to us, but that was just a blip. And guys, it's an incredible economy out there right now. Now, granted, these aren't always high-paying jobs. I'm not saying that the people in that industry are doing really well, but there's a lot more working today in that industry than ever before, and that's what's amazing about this one. We're going to destroy a bunch of myths today. Myth number one, I love this myth. No one's had a raise in 10 years. That is not true. The average hourly wage, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in the last 12 months is up 2.7%. We think inflation is 2%, so that means everyone has about 0.7% net increase in their pocket. What do we do when we have more money in our pocket, people? And remember, retail spending is over half the U.S. economy's GDP. So first of all, that also says, and our retail sales numbers are the highest they've ever been. I'll show you that in a few minutes. Just telling you how good. Oh, by the way, I am not a feel-good economist. Some economists are going to tell you when the house is on fire, things are good. I'm not that guy. Every year, and Rich and Carlos, I don't know what caused this, but every year my first speech of the year is in Cleveland. I want to know, guys, what did I did wrong at Stewart that you guys sent me to Cleveland in January? Yeah, it's later. Yeah. Well, I trash talked Cleveland so bad. After the first 14 years in Cleveland, one of the guys said, we had a room about 3,000 people. He said, Doc, you've been here for 14 years in a row. You just trash talk this town left and right. We are not going to let you out of here today until you give us good news about Cleveland. You want to hear my good news about Cleveland? I said to them, you don't live in Detroit. They go, ugh. So, the other good news, and I'll rewind. You go back to February of 2015, we had 3.2 million jobs. We're only running 2.36 million right now, but you'll notice that that's gone up four consecutive quarters. So we're on track for really good job growth. Now we have the answer. Why 1.61% such phenomenal job growth. And we're going to play Jeopardy now. And remember, I was a professor, so I can call anyone to the board I want. So I want y'all to tell me why 220,000 means the economy's super. Who wants to guess first? What's that? Realtors. There's 220,000 realtors in Florida? What's the jobs? What? Jobs and growth per month. You're close, but no. More job openings. We have the highest job openings in history right now. In fact, at the peak of the recession, we had 6 people unemployed for each available opening, and today we have 1 person unemployed for every job opening. Y'all are doing really good. You're getting creative bonus points, but no one's got it yet. You give up? Yes.
Median home price?
Median home price. Good answer, but no. Here it is. Here it is. The week ending January 13th, we had 220,000 people apply for first-time unemployment benefits. Now, that doesn't mean you've never had unemployment benefits before, but you just lost a job and you're applying for them this time. That's called first time, okay? That's the fewest number of people applying for unemployment benefits in 45 years. And remember, we have 100 million more people today than we had 45 years ago. Now, the reason our job growth is so low in what I call a hot economy, there's nobody left to hire. There's nobody left to hire. Kind of amazing. Well, here's another reason. 210,000. What do y'all think this one means? What's that?
Second time unemployment.
Second time unemployment. Creativity, I like that. No. That's the fewest number. That's the number of people applying for unemployment benefits in the week ending February 24th. That is the fewest people in 49 years. You'll recognize the trend here. Y'all get the trend going yet?
Take March for 1,000.
Take March for 1,000. I like this. Yeah. And then 211,000. That's May the 5th. Oh, and 220,000. That's last week. Y'all get it? We just don't have anyone left to hire. You just don't have anyone left to hire. And you can't create jobs if you don't have anyone left to hire. You know what it also says? If you don't have anyone left to hire and we have all these job openings, wages are going up, folks, because they're going to have to pay money to retain and attract people. And that's great news for everyone. We have 1.75 million people on unemployment benefits. That is almost a 50-year low. Fewest, and remember that 100 million extra. Now, I don't know how to tell you all this. The Republicans and the Democrats lied to you. Okay? Republicans said that everyone would have more money in their pockets after the tax cuts. And the Democrats said only top 1% would have more in their tax cut after their pockets after tax cuts. So the neat thing is on January 16th this year, USA Today, which is neither a Republican nor Democratic newspaper, kind of down the middle. Motley Fool, which is a financial advisor, had done a study And what they did, they took the IRS tape of everyone that had filed for income taxes back in 2016. And they, of course, you know what you paid, and they know what your income was, they know what your deductibles were, and they used that on the new tax rules. And what they came up with, they found out that 90% of the people would have more money at the end of this year because of the tax cuts. That's impressive, isn't it? 90%. Yeah. Kind of intriguing. Oh, and I, as a realtor, I'm also going to say this. I was very disappointed in NAR going against the tax cuts. They spent $32 million and lost everything, including credibility in the House and Senate. I will tell you that up front. And it's, you know, what can I say? So let's now break some myths on millennials. And there's not enough millennials in this room, I'm going to tell you that, and you're going to see why when I say in a few minutes. 13.6% of the population's aged 25 to 34. And they accounted for 36% of all home sales in the last 12 months. I've heard the myth that millennials will never buy homes. They're the largest home buying segment for the third year in a row. Y'all, yeah. Oh, and now let's hear these other myths about millennials. They don't respect money, they don't value money, they don't want to work hard, they don't want to take risks. All myths, all lies. I'm going to tell you that right now. So this is a neat one. Who's ever heard of 9GAG, 9GAG? It's an online subscription site targeted at millennials. And in fact, a lot more millennials use it, or a lot of millennials do no longer use Facebook because they like this better. It has chat rooms, it has Snapchat, it's got dating rooms, it's got gaming rooms. So they've got millions of subscribers. So I did a poll. I had 130,000 plus responses in this poll. And they said, would you rather have an easy job working for someone else or work for yourself but work incredibly hard? And 53% said, hey, I'm going to work for myself and work incredibly hard. Does that kind of sound like a realtor? Y'all see how that just fits? It's kind of intriguing, isn't it? Oh, by the way, it's about the same as Gen Xers and Gen Yers. About the same. About the same as boomers at that point in time. About the same. Kind of intriguing. Next question, this is intriguing. Would you rather commit to a guaranteed job for the next 3 years, in other words, just punch a time clock? Would you rather commit to a startup opportunity, which you could lose everything and win everything? Win big, lose big, but 71% said roll the dice, let's play the game. So they are risk takers. This next one bothers me a little bit on some of our millennials. Oh, not this one, the next one, after this one, excuse me. Would you rather gain 10 real friends in life or gain 10,000 friends on Instagram and Twitter? Yeah, 95% said I want the 10 real friends in life. And at my Cleveland speech this year, first time I'd use this slide, one of the guys said, that's because they've never had a real friend. That is not true. My youngest daughter is a millennial. Her husband's in the military, and they travel all around the world. I've got about 10 real friends all over the world. Kind of intriguing. This one is the one that bothers me a little bit. Would you rather lose the right to vote or lose the right to say anything on social media? Third of them, 33% said I'd lose the right to vote. Hey folks, if you have the right to vote, you get to say whatever you want to say on social media. Am I correct? And this next one just, this one, and by the way, I did not make this up. HR has approved this slide, okay? So just get ready for it. Would you rather give up sex or give up the internet? 43%. I'm worried about 43% of our millennials. Kind of intriguing. All right, let me show you where it's hot in the U.S. job growth-wise, then we'll drill down on your local market. This shows you the largest percentage job growth in the latest 12 months. Number 1, Nevada. Number 2, Idaho. Utah, Washington, Texas, Colorado, Arizona, California, Florida, and Oregon. Wow. By the way, Florida is almost always there. They get bounced out occasionally by Georgia a couple months ago, but you almost always talk. One of the intriguing things, you are the only state east of the Mississippi to be in the top 10, and you're almost consistently there. So then, there's another thing on this one. Naturally, these people in Cleveland, they got nothing to do, so they think about things. One of the guys said, hey, did you notice that 5 of the top 10 states have legalized pot, marijuana? He said, so shouldn't we all have legalized marijuana? And Alaska has legalized marijuana, and they're dead next to last. So kind of intriguing. And I'm going to tell you some phenomenal news, because this is long-term impact on Florida. Each year, the Tax Foundation does a big study. They look at all 50 states. They examine corporate income tax, personal income tax, retail sales tax, unemployment tax, property tax. You are the fourth best place to do business with in the United States. By the way, if you want to read more about this, go to my blog. Just Google Jones on Real Estate. And you can even sign up for the RSS feed on that if you want it. And look, just Google and insert Tax Foundation, and it'll pull this thing up. I write a new one on it every November, October, somewhere in there when they come out with this. Now, states 1, 2, and 3 really don't count. Wyoming, South Dakota, and Alaska, unless you're a caribou guy, nobody's moving there. Is that a fair statement? So, great place to do business. Why do you think Hertz relocated in Southwest Florida? Why do you think Caterpillar brought their articulated front end loader plant into Florida? Yeah, save money. It's exactly right. And you're going to see more and more and more of this, folks. I think I'm right on this one. Now let's talk about, when I talk about Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, that's the metropolitan statistical area. So if you see Miami MSA, we're talking the same thing. Well, not only do you have more jobs than any time in history, look how many jobs you dropped right here during that hurricane. Y'all see that? Do you see that, what we just talked about? But look at the recovery we've had. Remember I said 6 to 12 months later, do y'all see that built in there? And that's what we're seeing right now, just a great recovery. Now, this is the latest cities that are, this is the top 15, then I got another top 15. I want to show you where job growth is hot, and then I want to describe to you why it is. We have a grouping that continues this. By the way, the month prior, both Destin and Orlando were in the top 30. I think Orlando's down in the top 43. But here's what you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of energy. That's what Midland, Odessa is. It's oil and gas. That's all it is. You're going to see a lot of manufacturing. In fact, guess what do they make in Elkhart, Goshen, Indiana? Does anyone know? Recreational vehicles. Almost every recreational vehicle in America is made right there. And they're selling now more than they've ever sold before. We're seeing a lot of manufacturing. Did you all know we added almost 250,000 manufacturing jobs, new manufacturing jobs in the last 12 months? It's phenomenal that we're seeing this. You're going to see you got Fort Walton, Destin right there as the 6th best place. You're going to see a lot of destinations, all right? Great places to go. You're going to see a lot of technology. I mean, you're going to see a lot of major college towns, and you're going to see a lot of capitals. And those are the trends we're seeing and real good job growth right now. Just to show you the next ones coming up here. Again, like I said, you're going to see a lot of destinations, energy, technology, the whole works, it all goes in there. So let's talk housing sales. Now that black line up there is the total number of existing home sales in the last 12 months for the U.S. It has pretty much been it's arched over a little bit, but part of that's a lack of availability. We just have so few listings out there today. So I'm going to basically call it essentially flat for the last 12 months. And here's what's amazing about that. We're selling more homes in a 12-month period today than any time since June 2006. Remember 04, 5, and 6? The only reason we sold more homes then is we gave everyone a loan. The qualification requirement for a loan in 2004, 5, and 6 was a pulse rate. Not even a strong one. Am I right? Today, you have the most stringent lending conditions you and I have ever seen. And yet, we're back to, if you want to talk about it, if you pull out the subprime market, we literally have all-time record housing sales. Kind of intriguing, because it's sustainable, and that's what's really important, is sustainable. The bar's going up and down, that's your median price. So now, this is single family in the Miami MSA. Again, it's Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, Miami-Dade, all that good stuff. You guys have made a phenomenal run, and of course you do see what happened to your housing sales during the hurricane, right? But you see the recovery that's coming back in place. But look what prices are doing, just almost continually up. If you want to look at condos, again, we're doing really good even in condos here, it's coming back. Who thinks you have a really incredible housing market today in the Miami MSA? I do, as an economist. And the reason that I like about this, it is sustainable. And it's sustainable right now, which is amazing, with a lot of South and Central America now iced out of our economy. I mean, how many homes did you used to sell to Venezuelans whose currency is worthless? You all get the idea. So just trying to tell you, it is a phenomenal market. What is helping us somewhat in your market recovery today is we have a cheap dollar again. And so it's really, once again, good for Europeans and South Americans to be back in this marketplace, because they can buy more house for their currency. All right, so this happens to be, next question, are we overbuilding? So I look at building permits, number of dwelling units, both from apartments to mansions, and we compare that to jobs. You need to have 1.25 to 1.5 new jobs per new dwelling unit. We have almost 2 new jobs per new dwelling unit in the US, which means we're underbuilding, which means home values continue to rise on average, and it means rents continue to go up on average because demand is outstripping supply. If you want to come here, remember I said you got to have between 1 and 1.52. 1.5, you have 1.52 new jobs per new dwelling unit. You're not overbuilding again, even though someone's going to tell me in some of the high-priced condos you've probably done that once again, but we know that for a couple of years now. Am I correct? Yeah, got a few bobbleheads on that one. All right, so let's get down. Let's talk about the tax law changes. First one, we're going to talk about the mortgage interest deduction. All right, MID. Good news is that, and I gotta go after a few of the myths. Myth number 1 was, in fact, there was an ad out that if we were to reduce the mortgage interest deduction, some people would lose their homes. Who remembers seeing that ad or hearing it? Yep. It's not true. Because when the Senate passed that, they put in terms that said if you already have $1 million of loan on your house, you still get to deduct interest on up to $1 million borrowed. That was grandfathered in. That's great news. But now it's $750,000. So let's look at $750,000 loan. If you put 20% down on a $750,000 loan, that sales price is $937,500. What percent of your homes sell for above $937,500? What, pretty small? You know what? We can tell you this as a title company. About half the time, it's all cash transactions. The deductibility makes no difference. Just trying to tell y'all that, it's when you look at the picture, but now I'm going to take you to the states that really had NAR going their route. You go to California, 45% of all homes are worth more than $1 million in that state. So they did get hurt. So the other thing is state and local taxes. So in the good old days, that means before they signed this bill in December, you could deduct from your federal income taxes, state and local income taxes, all your property taxes, and all your retail sales taxes. And now it's limited to $10,000 per person. Why did they do that? Was it the Republicans punishing the blue states, yes or no? The answer is no. The reason they did this, and I'm neither Republican or Democrat, I'll tell you that right now. I've never voted a party ticket in my life. But the reason they did that, so you are in Florida, and I'm in California. You made $500,000, I made $500,000. Did you know she paid less federal income tax? I mean, the guy in California paid less federal income tax than you paid on the same income. Is that fair? No.
Paid state tax.
They paid more total taxes, county, state, and local, but they ended up paying less federal income taxes. So you could argue that their high taxes were forcing you to subsidize their state on federal income taxes. So you got to look at the whole picture on the economics. So since it's limited to 10,000, this was a study done by the Tax Policy Center, and they had the latest data they have on this one is 2015. There's the average state and local tax deduction on each of these filings. You're $7,373, which means most people in this state are going to be fine. Most, not all, but most. You go to New York, it's 22,000. California, it's almost 20,000. And they're hurting. Here are the states that are going to lose. California, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Oh, and by the way, you're going to see a lot more people from the northeast moving here quicker because you are the 4th best place to do business within the United States of America on taxes. So you're the winner. There's the losers. But it is what it is. So we already talked about this. We got more jobs than any time in history. Love that. Tax reform we talked about. Entry-level home buyers. Thank you, millennials. Thank you, millennials. Yesterday, if you read my Twitter account, how many of y'all tweet? You call yourself realtors and you don't tweet? Oh, we'll dig into that one, okay? Thanks. One of my tweets I think yesterday, the day before, Freddie Mac said that 46% of all home buyers in the last quarter were first-time home buyers. 46, almost half, guys. So they're coming back. They're coming back, kind of intriguing. Yeah, we got rising interest rates. The good news is most of us have more money in our pockets to pay for that. That's kind of intriguing right now. We'll talk where they're going. We do have cooling commercial sales. Anyone in here commercial? Okay. We have cooling sales, but we're going to address commercial, but it doesn't bother me because so many of us bought cheap commercial real estate in 2010, 11, 12, and 13, and finance is so cheap. We don't want to sell the goose that lays the golden egg. So we just collect the eggs and sell them. But we have this incredibly strong economy out there, guys. So let's talk about why I'm telling you rising interest rates aren't painful yet. This shows the amount of total take-home spending as a percent of every take-home dollar for the three following loans: car loans, college loans, house loans. We're currently spending about 10.36 cents of every take-home dollar on those. We're down from 13.2 cents in 2008. That's a big difference. Do y'all realize how big that is for the country? So we still have less total debt payments based on our income than we had when we got really sick on that. So that's great news. Number two, this happens to be our retail sales, as I was talking about earlier. Remember, over half the economy is right here. We call it real. That means it's adjusted for inflation. It's adjusted for seasonality. That way we can compare December. You know, you have a lot more sales in December in the holiday period than you have in January. And you're going to see we're at the highest ever. Now, do you see it peaked and then it went down and then went back up? Am I worried about that? It actually peaked in November last year, after you adjust for the things we adjust for. And the answer is no, I'm not worried at all about that because of this. Then we had car sales, and cars are still a major part of the U.S. economy, car manufacturing. Don't ever short-change how much cars impact our economy. And you can see where that black line is. We started going down, and then car sales boomed in October, November, December. Why? What's that? Yeah, we drowned 500,000 just in Houston. Do not buy a used vehicle from Texas this year. Did you hear what I said? I mean, yeah. So, and that's why cars are included in retail sales. So now you understand the story on that. Now the bad news. This is what disgusts me about all politicians, or most of them, 99.9% of them. They'll tell you something and still do the things they told you they weren't going to do. President Obama did double our federal deficit from 10.2 trillion to 20 trillion in 8 years. That means we were running a deficit about 1.2 trillion a year. And Congress just got a budget signed by President Trump that increases our deficit this year 1.3 trillion. And the Democrats are up in arms. How dare you? Well, what were you guys doing for 8 years? About the same thing. If you adjust for inflation, it's less even. What I'm trying to tell y'all is, Republicans are no different when it comes to politics than the Democrats, because they tell you one thing and they do the other. And the reason we will continue to run deficits for a politician is all about power. The longer you're there, the more power you have. I'll use two people as an example. I don't care for either one of them. John Bonner, Nancy Pelosi. They've been there so long, they have power. And the only way we're going to ever get around these massive deficits is to have term limits on the House and Senate. Who thinks I'm right on this? Here's the cool thing about that. Congress doesn't have to vote on this. This is a states' right issue. Just like women's suffrage right to vote was. You get 37 states that say we want this, then they put it on the ballot, and they change the Constitution if that's the case. Just like prohibition was. So kind of intriguing. So this is just ugly. That's all it is. But here's where it gets uglier. If you compare the total interest on the debt paid in March, just 1 month, March of 2016 versus March 2017, in that 12 months, interest payments on the federal debt increased 30%. And if you look from March 2017 to March 2018, our interest payments went up 10.7%, which means today we're paying more than 40% more interest today on the federal debt than we did 24 months ago. Oh, and we don't have the money to pay it even today. That's why we have to keep borrowing more money. My dad's a sheep rancher. He still raises sheep. And he told me in the last couple of years, he said, son, I wasn't born a second too soon. He said, don't like where we're going with this. I'm starting to say that because, and now, by the way, I'm 64, so I don't care about this because it's my grandchildren and my children's problem. Y'all see that? What a bad excuse I just said. Y'all with me on this one? This is out of control. Who thinks I'm right on this? Just out of control. All right, so we're going to talk commercial real quick. This is total commercial sales. Oh, I want to say something to our commercial people. You realtors on the residential side, it was poor, pitiful me when your housing market burst, right? You need to feel sorry for the commercial brokers, because within 24 minutes, their total volume of sales dropped 88% in 24 months. We had a bigger bubble in commercial real estate than we had in housing. No one's talking about that. And like I said, the reason, you get down in here, the reason that we're going down in sales over there is we bought so much property in this period right here. We got it for 50 cents on the dollar sometimes, and we financed at the lowest rates you and I've ever seen on commercial real estate. Nobody wants to sell it. We've had rising rents. Values have doubled in some spots, some even more. The whole works. Now, that's not true across all property types. Guess what's the hottest, best property to invest in today? Industrial. We have a winner. Chicken dinner right there. Industrial, look at the sales. And why is industrial doing so well? Because we have cheap energy. Think about what cheap energy does to industrial. I mean, you got all the oil you're going to need for the next 100 years right here, right now. I'll show you in a few minutes. Kind of intriguing. Here comes our office, and look at the offices going off, but there's a structural change going on here. I do not need an office. I always joke, my CEO is going to walk into my office one day and say, Ted, pack up your office, but you still have a job. You just don't need an office. I'm on the road 260 to 300 days a year. I don't need an office. I need Wi-Fi. Am I right? Yeah. Then you want to look at retail. Look at that one. I'm going to ask one simple question. How many of you are Amazon Prime members? Bingo. I mean, we just don't need as much. What we're having in real estate right now, we're having a dichotomy. We still go to high touch, high quality, high service, high price, because we like all that stuff. And on the other thing, it's whatever the cheapest is and most convenient. We go to the big box or we go to the internet. Completely changing. Oh, talk about retail changing. Who's been on Fifth Avenue in New York City? All right? 3 years ago, ground floor rents on retail, Fifth Avenue, New York City, averaged $3,000 per square foot per year. Rent. Today, they're asking $2,400, and you'll go down there and the store after store after store will be vacant. So ladies, I'll talk to y'all Coach. That rings bells, right? Coach used to have 3,600 square feet on Fifth Avenue. They and 3 other shops went in at least 1,800 square feet. And all you do when you go in there, here's all the Coach stuff, and here's 2 kiosks. You can order whatever you want, and they'll ship it to your house. See how we're structurally changing the way we do business. Kind of intriguing. And then you want to look at apartments. They're blowing and going. Why? We just don't have enough housing. Just don't have enough housing. So good commercial overview. Oh, and I do want to say one other thing real quick. In the tax cuts, if I'd given this speech 2 months before the tax cuts, here's what I said. I would say if the tax cuts passed as proposed at that point in time, I thought commercial values would drop 15 to 25%. Because here's what they had proposed. They had proposed to eliminate 1031s. They had proposed to eliminate the 15-year depreciation schedule we have on commercial real estate and make it a 30-year schedule. They proposed to eliminate component depreciation like your air conditioners and stuff. They don't last 15 years. They had proposed to not allow you to deduct the interest on your tax filings on money you borrowed to buy commercial real estate. They didn't pass any of that. Not one of those things changed. Commercial came out completely unscathed. Kind of intriguing, so it's good news. Just to show you the cap rate's higher the cap rate, the better you are. That means you have to pay less money to get more money, so to speak. And you can see industrial's kind of tying in the top on that one. Kind of intriguing. Oh, now let's talk interest rates. Y'all ready to see where they're going to go? All right. We'll start with commercial and then we'll move to residential. That top line, that's the average cap rate on commercial real estate in the U.S. Bottom line, that's the 10-year treasury, which has gone up and now our cap rates are starting to go up. So what it says is we're actually going to pay less for the same cash flow, so to speak, but now since our interest costs are better, all it means is property values may drop some places if rents don't go up enough. So now let's talk about 30-year conventional fixed rate mortgages. So what you have up here, first of all, the Federal Reserve does not set rates. They have a target for the Fed funds rate. The Fed funds rate is that rate that one bank loans money to another bank overnight for necessary reserves. All right? So if you had a good day at the bank, you made a lot of loans, need more money in your account, so you borrow some from another bank, electronically it just comes in. And what the Fed does is they put a target rate out there telling everyone that we're going to push rates up to this or down to this in this short next outlook. And they didn't go do that by monetary policy. So this is the last 4 times the Fed went through these rate cycles. June 04 to June 06, over 25 months, they raised that target 17 times. They raised it 425 basis points, or 4.25%. January 99, May 2000, 12 months, 6 increases, 175 basis points. March 97, 1, it was 0.25%. And then February 94, February 95, 13 months, 7 increases, 300 basis points. And the average there is in the 230s, 2.3%. Is the Fed going to raise rates 2.3% this cycle? And my answer is no. And I'm going to base this. I read our new Chairman Powell's, read his minutes after the last time they raised rates. And he is of the opinion, and many others at the Fed, that they raised rates too fast last time. Too much. And when rates go up a bunch, all right, let's say you got an adjustable rate mortgage. Rates go up a little, you make your payment. If they go up too much, you say, oh, heck with it, am I correct? And he thinks they have fed into the recession by giving people a reason to say, the heck with it. That's probably true. So now, stick with me on what quadrant we're going to talk about. Top left-hand corner, let's just look at the 30-year rate. You guys, commercial, who segregated themselves over here, the commercial guys, you can look at it at the Treasury. But this is the month before we started raising rates. This is November 2015. 30-year residential mortgage is 3.94%. All right, so we're going to come down over here. And as I talked about, I don't think they're going to raise the 231. I think they're going to do half that or between the two. All right? So now if you come over to this one, that means I think rates are going to go in the next 9 to 15 months, we're going to be 5.1 to 5.7. Oh, and our studies indicate that as long as we stay below 6, you guys are going to be pretty much okay. Okay? But we all need to look at the perspective. We've just endured artificially the lowest interest rate you and I've ever seen in our lives. When I was a professor at Texas A&M, November of '89, I finished building my new house. Closed in November, and I was thrilled. I got a 30-year fixed rate loan at 9.75%. It's the first time below 10% in over 10 years. So you got to put it all in perspective, guys. Here's the current forecast by Fannie, Freddie, and the MBA. You'll notice I'm the highest out there. But who kind of agrees with me? This just isn't going to do much. Oh, by the way, you can see this updated forecast every month, both on my Twitter account and my blog. Have I mentioned my Twitter account yet? DRTCJ. Don't worry, I got a slide of it coming up, okay? All right. Well, I do want to show you where, and of course, your premiums are pretty much, they're based on varying percentages, but percentages of total transaction volumes. Good proxy for that's lending volumes. I do want to throw this. Any lenders in the room here today? No, we got a lender back there. Your refinance volumes this year are going to drop 25.8% from last year. And next year they're going to drop another 12.7%. But that doesn't impact any realtor in here. Here's what the forecast is from Fannie, Freddie, and the MBA. It's the average of theirs. This year we ought to see transaction volume, and this is loans, but it's a proxy for yours, up 3.9%, next year up 5.6%. Everyone is optimistic about housing volumes on purchase transactions next year. I'm just telling you, this is not a flash in the pan, what we're seeing today. Y'all with me on this stuff? Kind of intriguing? All right. Who wants to hear about Bitcoin? Okay. So whenever I hear that someone wants to hear about Bitcoin, it's one of two things. Either you own it or your kid owns it. One of the two. Am I right? So I'm not an expert on Bitcoin, but I'm going to quote 3 of them. One of them, Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft. I love what he said. It's likely the biggest scam we've seen since the dot-com implosion in 2000. All right? Then I'm going to quote another one. I've been on this little guy from Nebraska. I've been on his jet. When I say little guy, to me he's a man of incredible stature. Y'all have heard of Warren Buffett? Here's what Warren says about it. Cryptocurrency is almost certainly in badly. Oh, and now I'm going to give you the expert. When I say the expert, this guy called the housing bubble 2 years in advance. This next guy coming up called the dot-com 24 months in advance. Here's what he says about these cryptocurrencies. He's from Goldman Sachs. Most, if not all, of today's digital coins will find a final resting place at 0. Y'all get it yet? So I use this slide in Portland, Oregon. And by the way, Portland, Oregon may be the greeniest green town you've ever been in your life. Who's been to Portland? They banned straws 3 years ago. You need to understand, they just, I mean, you can't pump your own gas there because you're not competent. Y'all get this yet? Okay. All right, so one of the guys, when I was up there, and he said afterwards, he says, wow, man, it's just horrible. That's what do you mean it's horrible? Well, we don't have cryptocurrencies, we're going to destroy the world. I said, how does that work out? He says, well, we've got to cut down trees to print up checks. That's going to destroy the ozone. Okay. He says, we have to mine minerals to make coins, and all that carbon dioxide is destroying our world. And I said, so you think the cryptocurrencies is the way to do it? Now, I didn't know this at that point in time, but I've learned it since then. There was a big study done. Here's how much electricity it takes to mine a typical Bitcoin. Remember, they run a supercomputer like a Cray, and they run it, and they solve mathematical algorithms. And that's how you create Bitcoins. 1 Bitcoin at the average US electricity costs $4,758 to mine. And I guarantee you not all that's wind and solar, if you know what I'm talking about. Who's surprised? Yeah. Okay, the most important thing I'm going to tell you about the next 30 to 50 years is 19 days. Let's play Jeopardy again. Bonus points for creativity. 19 days is the most important thing to the next 30 to 50 years for the U.S. Who wants to guess? Not everyone at once, okay? Number of days closing. That's pretty cool. That's a good one.
Work days.
Work days, what?
Work days in a month.
Work days in a month, that's okay. You guys are both wrong too, yes. What's that? Energy Summit. You got part of that, right, energy. So I got to, years ago, I had a little appraisal company, and who's ever heard of George Mitchell in here? Who's ever heard of the Woodlands? The most successful master plan city the United States has ever seen. George developed that. He died 4 years ago. He's a petroleum engineer from Texas A&M, died at the age of 96. Great guy. He also owned Mitchell Energy, and they perfected and patented hydraulic fracking of shale formations. 4 years ago, when George died, it used to take us 40 days to drill a site. Let me explain how they do that. To drill a site means, let's say this is a section of land, okay? Right in the middle, we're going to put a drilling rig, and we're going to, depend on what kind of shell it is, we're going to drill 9 to 12 holes, up to 20,000 feet deep. And then we're going to go out laterally, half mile to a mile. And that way you can take all that oil up. It used to take us to go out there and drill those 9 to 12 wells and frack them 40 days. In the last 4 years, we now can do that in 19 days. And the reason I'm telling you this is so critical to your future, and especially y'all here in Florida, the worst thing I think that's ever happened to the U.S. economy in my lifetime was 1973 when OPEC came in with the oil cuts. It destroyed Florida for that year. I mean, your business is primarily leisure and hospitality, and gasoline, first of all, was just 5 times more expensive. You couldn't get it. You have to realize, if your license plates in those days, federal law, ended in an even number, you can only gas up on even days, an odd number on odd days. Who remembers that besides me?
Yeah.
And very often when it was your day to gas up, there wasn't any. So when you hear that the labor unions, their greed caused all the manufacturing jobs, maybe that was some of it, but the simple fact you couldn't get energy to do anything, that's one of the primary reasons our manufacturing left, and that's why it's coming back, and that's why industrial is so hot. So I want to show you this, the 14 days now, 19 days. Oh, talk about technological change. Here, we had 2,100 drilling rigs. We were producing 9.5 million barrels per day. We have 1,000 drilling rigs a day. We're producing 10.6 million barrels per day. How many of y'all knew this? 4 weeks ago, we became the largest oil-producing country in the world. Did y'all know that? What does cheap energy bode for the future of Florida's leisure and hospitality business? Nothing but good. Because expensive energy, whether it's plane tickets or everything else like that, I'm telling you again, you're going to have probably the best tourism summer year this year in history. Who thinks I'm right on this? And a lot of people that come here and go there in the summer times or the falls or whatever, they move here because they like it. And you all know I'm right on this one. Just to show you how much oil and gas there is in the lower 48 states. Anything that's pink, purple, or orange has recoverable oil or gas or both. How many of y'all knew we had that much oil? How many of y'all knew that? Yeah, phenomenal, isn't it? Oh, and Alaska, we always think of Alaska's having that. They're down to 5 drilling rigs. That's it, 5. So let's just look this thing up. Strong economy. Oh, I haven't talked about the corporate tax cut. How about that? I wanted to say that because we haven't felt this impact yet, but now let me describe to you. I'm going to use my own company as an example. Stewart's trade on the New York Stock Exchange under the name Stewart Information Services Corporation. For 17 years, I was also Director of Investor Relations with the exchange for our company. And for the last 4 years, our average corporate tax rate has been 39%. Last year, for every dollar that y'all paid us in title, or your customers paid us in title premiums, we earned 7 cents after tax and everything. So at the year-end conference call, which is all public information, one of the analysts asked our CFO, what will your new corporate tax rate be under the new tax law? What will it go to? And he said, we're going to go down from 39% to 24 or 25%. Ooh, let's pick the 25, which is even higher. It's a conservative one. That means we're going to add another 14 cents of earnings to every dollar collected. Oh, and again, Nancy Pelosi said it's only for the top 1%. How many of y'all have a 401k that has any stock of any kind in it? You win. You win. Because one of my tweets this week talked about what companies, and this was small businesses too, 83% think we have a phenomenal economy. 47% are going to invest in their business because of lower taxes. 44% are going to increase pay to their employees, and more than 25% are going to hire more people. Y'all get all this stuff? So this is a real zinger. We haven't reaped those benefits yet. Any of y'all own an Apple computer? Because of the tax cuts, Apple brought back $200 billion of overseas profits. They still had to pay $24 billion of federal income taxes. They're going to buy back $100 billion of their stock, which will probably drive up their stock price $120 billion. Y'all get this? So the stock owners are the beneficiaries of this. And it is the common man without it that wins from that. Mortgage interest and the SALT, state and local taxes, it's going to hurt some states. You guys win big. You think I'm right?
Yes.
I spoke earlier this week in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And I asked the realtors in the group that was there, I said, how many of y'all are seeing a dramatic increase of people from California? And one lady says, we have sold thus far in May and June 11 homes just to Californians that are leaving the state. You're going to see the same thing from the Northeast. Am I correct? Who's seen it already? You're seeing more people? Just look, yeah. Just ask Trulia and Zillow and Realtor.com who's looking from where. And you're one of the big winners on this one, folks. Kind of intriguing. Quantitative easing is we're reverse it, which means our banks will have less cash, which means they're going to rates, money goes up and the supply goes down. We're going to have rising rates. I don't see it getting out of line yet. I don't really worry about it until it's above 6%. Granted, it's going to hit some people without question. Increased incomes and cheap energy drives us. If you want to see, if you want to have fun, to see if you're one of those 90%. Tax Foundation, that not-for-profit out of Washington, D.C. I mentioned earlier, they built a calculator. If you go to their site, and by the way, you're putting that in, that's fine, but I always make a PDF of this available to the realtors, and they'll have it to distribute to y'all. Is that fair enough? So it'll be there too. But what they did is, you can put in what you earned last year, what your deductions were, and some of those deductions are no longer valid, and what your taxes were last year, and it'll tell you what your new taxes will be under the same laws, and you'll see if you're one of the 90% of the winners or 10% of the losers. Well, I called up the Tax Foundation, I said, how many people using your calculator are taking home more money? He said 92 to 93%, so it's even more optimistic than what the USA Today article said. So I gotta tell y'all this. How many of y'all have heard that artificial intelligence is gonna replace everyone in this room? Yeah, you hear it all the time. Last year, each year I speak at the NAR convention, I speak at the land title conventions, MBA convention, all stuff. We have these same consultants out there telling you that you're doomed, lenders are doomed, title people are doomed, because the computer, artificial intelligence is going to replace you. And I'm going to tell you, it will not happen. I'll start with lenders. Not everyone has the same credit history. It takes some big decision. To a lender, it's how much risk am I willing to take? Okay, realtors, does every buyer and seller have the identical motives, yes or no?
No.
what amazes me about you, and I've seen a lot of closings, I've been to a lot of closings over time where we're going to bust out a $500,000 house sale unless someone puts $250 on the table. Y'all seen that, haven't you? I look at the grimace. But you, the realtor, kept that deal together, am I correct?
Yes.
Bingo. That's what I'm talking about. Same is true with title. We can insure that house, we can't insure that house, even though they're built by the same builder and sold on the same day because someone screwed up that title. So Roger Federer, he has a machine, the great tennis player. Whatever he messed up on the previous week, he has an artificial intelligence computer that generates whatever those shots were. This is not it, but I love this robot and I want to own it. This is why I don't think you're going to see AI replacing you. So here we go.
Welcome home, Roger. Roger. Coffee.
No coffee.
Freshly ground, not capsule. The pulse extraction process delivers perfect specialty coffees with the S8 from Mura.
So here's my question. Have you ever been to this place called Starbucks? If AI was going to take over any place, it should be Starbucks. And here's the way it would work. You'd go in and you scan your fingerprint. It would laser print your cup. It would come down and put in everything you needed. It would bill your PayPal account. You don't need a person in there. But even Starbucks understands that personal touch. Am I correct? You might use artificial intelligence as a back office assistant, but I don't think it's going to replace one person in this room. Who thinks I'm right on this? Really do. It's just a very complex transaction. I will tell you this. I think today that realtors add more value to the transaction than they ever have before. Because today you're not just driving people around in a car showing them homes. I think the complexities of your business, and it's really cool because your skills are negotiating skills. And I just don't mean price on what stays behind, what sells, what you're going to repair for the owner. I mean, all that kind of stuff. I have a Twitter account. Have I mentioned that? Okay. Who's going to sign up with me? Now, here's what I'm going to tell y'all. If you sign up with me, don't have every tweet come into your in-mail box. Sign up where the tweets are in, whenever you go to Twitter, you can read them. Who thinks I'm right? Because very often I'm tweeting at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I did that before Trump did. I'm telling you that right now, okay? It's all economics, but you go there. So every year, I look for the signs of the future. Here's my favorite sign from last year. I want to grow my own food, but I can't find bacon seeds. So I used this at a commercial conference in Denver in January, middle of January. I'm up in Alaska, and my wife calls me up, and she said, "You just got a package of bacon seeds in the mail." And I said, "Who sent it?" I mean, it was really slick. They'd taken and scanned like a seed packet, and then they modified it using photo book or whatever. And it was this beautiful pepper plant that had strips of bacon hanging from it. On the back, it told you how deep to plant the seeds, when to plant it, soil temperatures, when to harvest, all that kind of stuff, how to cook it, the whole works. So I asked my wife, I said, "Who sent it?" She says, "There's no sender's name on here." I said, "Where is it postmarked?" She said, "Colorado." And I thought for a second, I said, "Don't open those bacon seeds. They might be legal in Colorado, but they're not in Texas." That's right. Oh, and then I always look for the dumbest thing I saw last year, and for the 4th year in a row, California won again. So y'all gotta appreciate this. Diet ice. Diet ice. Who's got some questions real quick? Yes?
How do you think healthcare costs will impact the economy?
Oh, healthcare costs are massive and they're going up dramatically. One of the articles I was reading, they're finally coming up with this online database. And we're looking, they're tracking 236 medical conditions. 30 of them account for 42% of all of our costs. Heart, diabetes, so a lot of it's our own fault, kind of intriguing. The health car is going no place but up, kind of intriguing, yep. Anyone else? Yes?
How do you think that after seeing ways to expand the keep down and why people get everything they got going on with the affordable housing? We've got people that are out of work and not looking for jobs, and yet it's a destination area. So as people want to go, you're using energy costs. you know, other coastlines, this is why everything is down to scratch. How is that gonna play into our economy?
So let me talk about affordable housing real quick. Again, I mentioned I was in Jackson Hole earlier this week. Every bartender, server, wait staff person, they complained to me about, they said, what do you do? I'm a real estate economist. Well, you gotta do something about affordable housing. Dude, you live in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It's not gonna be affordable. And nor should everyone have the right in great destinations, because supply and demand say that it's gonna cost more, right? So I think what you have to do, I'm gonna be real frank about this, if they want affordable housing, they can get jobs in Columbus, Ohio, in Houston, Texas, and other places like that, and they can afford a house. But if you want live in a great place, you're going to have issues like that. Bottom line is that. My brother-in-law, I won't even say anything else more than this. He's a part-time ski instructor at Beaver Creek, Colorado, and he's angry about the cost of housing, and I don't feel 1 ounce sorry for him. He gets to stay in Beaver Creek, Colorado. Y'all with me on this? Yeah. Yes, then we're gonna have to quit because I can't take in their time too much.
You know, that's all fine and good and very illegal. However, in a sense, who's gonna serve us? Who's gonna be the ticket takers in the wherever? We have to have working class housing, or we're not gonna be able to have tourists because I'm not gonna serve them.
That's right.
That, I mean, that's an easy solution. That's a real,
You know, it's
remark.
an economic remark, not a flip remark.
Well, it's flipped in an economic sense.
So what we're seeing is, what we're seeing in several, wait a second, what we're seeing in several markets is we're seeing a massive increase in base pay. Look what Walmart did just to retain their workers. There's a guy in my Sunday school class. He went from $11 an hour to $15 an hour. To him, that is material. Remember, your income is a function of your skill set. If you don't have a skill set in demand, you will not make enough money to live where you want to live and what you want to live on. Am I correct? Yeah. Yes, sir.
The impact on the economy, the impact on the economy of alternative technologies, energy storage, Tesla, those kind of things, do the economists look at that as a potential boom in the making, or is it just another delay for like
So let's talk about Tesla real quick. Anyone
I
own one?
have mine out.
Okay. And they're beautiful cars. Tesla's never made a dime selling a Tesla. They're the highest subsidized automobile made in the United States of America. Taxpayers, they get a tax credit on every one of them sold. Both of them, yes, they do, ma'am. Just go, yeah. We have these benefits like that. It is what it is. But, you know, we've done that in oil and gas and coal too, so there's nothing new here. But here's the deal. I love alternative energy sources, but you'd never build one if it wasn't for the subsidies. I would prefer to see all the money we're spending distributing the stuff that'll never pay for itself put into full-time R&D. Full-time R&D. And because if we can get the research and development and really perfect it where it will pay for itself, then we get massive payoffs. Thank you all very, yes.